Hello and welcome to FitPros Live. You are in store for an educational and engaging session. Your instructor is live and able to answer questions that you drop in the chat. And we encourage you to respectfully interact with one another. Check your company's wellbeing portal for more live sessions this week. We are a community of wellness warriors. Now let's slay the day. Welcome everyone to your Q3 live cooking demo presented by FitPros. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name is Suzy Lewis and I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I love using the easy button.
That was easy.
So everything I show you today is going to be simple, it's going to be easy, it's going to be delicious, and it's going to be really clean. Today, our focus is going to be on family friendly and economical. So these are great party foods. They're also great to just add to your meal prepping for the week. They're very simple and we're using whole ingredients, just not a lot of packaged stuff, a couple packaged items, but most of this is from just like whole foods. So it's going to be really great. So we're actually going to start out here. We're going to be making triple berry trifle cake. We're going to be making orange chicken for sharing. And in order to share it, you might want to double this recipe. I'm just saying because it's super duper good. And then we're also making skillet street corn. And this is like a great kind of like Mexican street corn that you may have gotten at festivals and things like that or farmers markets, but it's in a really easy to eat way. We're going to use frozen corn kernels for this. So it's going to be really great. So let's go ahead and get started. The way we're going to do this, we're going to pack all this into 45 minutes or less. So you can see a lot of ingredients out here. These are all whole ingredients, so there's not a lot of packaged stuff, like I said. So first of all, we're going to start with a cake. So we're going to kind of start backwards because that takes the longest to cook. So go ahead and get your oven heated to 350. Mine is already heated. And we're going to go ahead and make this really simple cake batter. I do have I like to do this in 2 round pans. It tends to just cook a little bit quicker, but you can use whatever type pans you have. In fact, even if you wanted to do it in like muffin tins, you could do that. You could use the same batter. You're just not going to have as long of a cooking time. So I'm going to go ahead and just spray my pans with cooking spray. So I'm just going to kind of spray it out there. And that I've found is just the easiest way to make sure that this cake does not stick. So I'm going to set those aside and I've got a big mixing bowl. Now you can do this in your mixer as well. That is totally fine. I really like to just use as little apparatuses, things like that as I need to. So I'm taking 1 yellow cake mix. This was just like your typical store-bought cake mix here. And then I'm also going to take 1 3.4 ounce vanilla pudding. This is a prepared vanilla pudding. And if you want to do that without the packages, you're more than welcome to do that. You can absolutely do that. Now what I'm going to add to this mixture, I'm just going to give that a little mix, and I'm just doing this in my mixing bowl here. I am going to start putting in my wet ingredients. So I'm not following the directions on the back of the package. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of cooking oil or vegetable oil, that is. I'm adding a 1/2 cup of milk, add that there. And then we're going to add 1 cup of sour cream. And let me tell you, this thing is so rich and delicious. Oh my gosh, it is definitely a favorite. And it's just simple. We do add a little richness in with the milk and the sour cream in there. If you are vegan and you want to make this a vegan way, there are definitely ways to do that with the different substitutions. Today, we're just kind of doing it this simple, just using milk products, but you could definitely use plant-based products in this as well. And then we're going to add in 4 eggs to this. So there definitely are some great vegan sources of like an egg substitute that's really effective in your baking. You can absolutely trade it out for that. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you're wanting to make this cake, but you just have some allergies or food sensitivities or anything like that, or special dietary things, you can absolutely do this. Don't ever let that keep you from making a traditional recipe. So now we're just gonna whisk all this together, get everything mixed in, and then we're gonna spread the batter into 2 separate pans. This is a really rich batter. It actually has quite a bit of protein in it. It's just with all those eggs that we're adding. And there's some really, I like to buy organic sour cream and dairy products. So we're actually getting some really good ingredients in there. Sometimes these things get a bad rap and people feel like they have a lot of fat to them, so you should exclude them from your diet. But actually, we need a fair amount of fat to keep our bodies going. So not saying that you want to have a diet super rich and tons of fat, but having a little bit of fat really adds to that satiating feeling. And I think making these foods at home, the way that they taste really good, is going to keep us wanting to cook at home and everybody wanting to eat them. So just something to keep in mind. When we cook at home, there are so many benefits. I'm going to just split this batter into these 2 pans here, and I probably need to get a spatula. So let me get what I can out, and then we'll go for the spatula. Trying to turn this around so you can see it better. Oops, I'm kind of making a mess here. So yeah, one of the benefits of cooking at home, there are so many benefits of cooking from home. First of all, it costs about 1/4 of the amount on average, and this is taken from many cities worldwide. They actually did this huge study, and they found that pretty consistently, I mean, it might vary a little bit depending on your city, but it costs about 1/4 of the amount to cook at home. So something to keep in mind. I'm not saying that you always have to cook at home and you can never go out, but definitely if there's something that you find that's a favorite at a restaurant, what I like to do sometimes is just take a picture of the menu and try and kind of duplicate it myself. And a lot of times you can. Of course, sometimes we want to go out and have those times, and that's okay. So don't want to take away all your home there, but we definitely can make some more things at home. These are my fun. I love these. These are instead of paper towels, you can get these little cloths that are just great, and then they're washable. They're so nice. I use them for everything. I love them in the kitchen, and I can't believe how much it saved me on paper towels. Another way to save money and be more sustainable. So there we've got our 2 cakes here in my round pans. And now, depending on your oven, it might depend on how long you're going to need to cook this. My oven runs a little bit hot. I've got it at 350. And so I'm going to cook these for about 20 to 22 minutes. So we're going to put those in there, set the timer, and then we're going to get started on our chicken. Okay, let's get this timer going. Gotta set the timer because, oh my goodness, it's so easy to forget. So I'm going to take my nice little paper towel here that's not really a paper towel, my cloth towel, and just wipe down my surface. And we're going to get started on our chicken. So with our chicken, we are actually using thighs today. So much of the time we get used to using like skinless breast meat only for our chicken, and it is quite a bit more expensive. It's a little bit leaner than the thighs, but it costs about double the amount as skinless. Thighs cost about half the amount as skinless breast. So I'm going to go ahead and come on back here and get my chicken supplies already. So I have about 1 pound of skinless, boneless chicken thighs there. And I already have pre-cut these up into bite-sized pieces. Just in the interest of time, I did that ahead of time. One reminder, a nice thing about wood cutting boards is that they actually disinfect themselves after 24 hours, but we don't want to share surfaces with our meat and our plants. So just a fun little thing, if you didn't know that about wood cutting boards. I love my wood cutting boards, and then I just treat them with like a food grade oil. So I'm going to go ahead and start my surface heater here, my larger frying pan. I'm going to put that on medium high and kind of let that get hot. I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil in there. So we'll just put a little oil in. And then what makes this so yummy? It reminds me of going to the mall, and you know how there's those stands where they have like the toothpick and it has that yummy orange chicken that you absolutely cannot resist, or at least I can't. This is so good. It has that tangy flavor of that sauce. It's got a little bit of vinegar in there and the orange flavor and the sesame on top of it. It just makes it so good. The nice thing about it is it's just a fraction of the sodium and a fraction of the calories. So we can absolutely make some of these favorites that we get at restaurants by ourselves at home. So some of the benefits of cooking at home also are it really enhances your creativity. You get to light up those creative centers of your brain that don't always get activated during the day when we're busy at work and things like that. Sometimes they do. But it also, cooking at home also enhances your confidence, believe it or not. It's so funny, the mental benefits of cooking at home. So I really encourage you for other ways just than to save money and be healthier. There are other benefits to cooking at home as well. So we're letting this olive oil, a couple tablespoons here, maybe even just a little less than a couple. I'm going to let that heat up. And then what I want to do is I want to put my chicken pieces in the skillet, and I want to have them not get overcrowded because we want to get that nice little pan fried kind of crusty part on there that makes it so yummy. So I'm actually going to let my pan get nice and hot there. Then in our sauce, we have got some orange, we've got some sesame oil. Sesame oil can be pretty overpowering. I'm going to move that over there. So sesame oil can be a little bit overpowering. So we're only going to use a teaspoon of it. We're going to use a little bit of garlic. And I like to use my garlic. I just pick it up at the grocery store when it's already minced. And usually I get organic, although this one is not organic. We also have some fresh ginger. If you don't have fresh ginger or you don't know where to find it, usually it's by the avocados in the grocery store. But if you don't have it, probably in your spice rack somewhere, there might be hiding some ginger powder. So you can use about half a tablespoon of that or a couple teaspoons of it. And then that's for our corn. And then we're going to use, about a tablespoon of coconut sugar. If you don't have coconut sugar, you can also use just brown sugar. And then we also are going to use some rice wine vinegar. Another type of vinegar will work as well. You could use like a balsamic white vinegar, or even just regular vinegar will work. That's fine. And then we're going to use coconut aminos. If you don't have coconut aminos, but you have soy sauce, that'll work for you. I do encourage you to go ahead and get coconut aminos if that's something that you haven't had before. It is quite a bit less on the sodium content, and we actually get some great B vitamins and other nutrients in there with it. And it tastes pretty much the same. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tip in my chicken pieces into here now. And we're going to spread those out so that they're just like nicely spread apart. We want to get that little sear on them like I talked about. My pan really feels like it could be a bit hotter, so I'm going to just bump up the heat just a tiny bit. So once I get this all separated out here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave it alone now. So we're just going to let it sit there while we make our sauce, because I want it to get that nice kind of searing and just capturing the nice flavor and kind of making a little bit of a crispy crust to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our sauce here. The main ingredient of our sauce is going to be the orange. So I'm using a navel orange. And we're going to go ahead and cut it in half. And then I'm going to just use, wrong knife there. Let me get this knife. I am going to just use a little citrus squeezer here. I like, for lemons and limes, I have the press, and that works great. But for the oranges, they're a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and just squeeze it out into here. You could also squeeze it by hand, or you could use a variety of different things. If you're really in a pinch and you don't have time to even go to the grocery store, you just want to use what you have on hand. And maybe if you have some orange juice or something like that, feel free to do that as well. Okay. Squeeze the rest out there. Put that aside. So it works out to be about a quarter of a cup to a half a cup of orange juice that we're using. And I can see my chicken is starting to get a little bit of that white part going up the side. That's when it's starting to cook. So I'm going to let that get up a little bit more on the side. You can probably see it in the video as well. And that's that's where when it gets cooked, it starts to change colors like that. Okay, so I've got my orange squeeze here. Let's go ahead and tip it into the bowl. Let's set that aside. And then we're going to use a teaspoon of garlic, or about 1 clove. We're also going to use a teaspoon of our sesame oil. Oops, that's a quarter of a teaspoon. Let's get the right measurement here. And it's so fun to get all these different ingredients. And then once you buy them, you've got them all. So you don't have to keep buying them. Sometimes it's a little bit extra just to buy them the first time, but you can do it. Okay, and now we're going to put 1 tablespoon of that coconut sugar. I like to use coconut sugar because it's a little less processed, obviously. It's less processed. And then it also has a little bit of fiber in them. So it's not a huge amount, but it is a little bit. And I think the closer to nature we can get, the better. We're going to use 3 tablespoons of the coconut aminos and 1 tablespoon of our vinegar. My chicken's getting nice and simmering over here. It's starting to just smell really yummy. Go ahead and put a tablespoon in there. And now we are going to put in some of our ginger. So I'm going to take my ginger, and most of the ginger that we get are, you can actually get young ginger at farmers market sometimes. And that ginger is not going to have this hard outside part to it. But most ginger that we get is pretty mature. So we have to cut the outside skin away because that part is kind of rough. So we're just going to cut that away. And this is great. Ginger, fresh ginger is so good, just like as a water infusion or even in tea. Definitely if you have an upset stomach or anything, it's a great thing to use. I love them. So we're going to go ahead and just grate some of this. We want to get about a tablespoon, which is about a thumb kind of piece of it. So we'll go ahead and grate this, and this just gives it a great flavor. It's a little bit spicy. If you do not have your ginger to have fresh, like I said, you can go ahead and use the powdered ginger, and you're just not going to use quite as much of it. Okay, great. And I think we're going to have to flip our chicken here. So let's go ahead and do that. So now I'm just going to turn the chicken all over. Oh, and it's got this nice, like caramely kind of outer coating on it. One of the nice things, just to tell you a little bit about chicken thighs as well. So they do have a little bit more fat in them than the breast. However, they are very delicious. They tend to be, like culinary speaking, that fat it just makes things taste really good. They also, like I said, are going to be a lot less expensive. They are higher. This is kind of interesting. They're higher in iron and zinc. So they tend to be richer with like more, carrying more blood in them. And so they have some of those components to them as well, which is kind of interesting. So it's always good to get a variety of foods, I think, too. But boy, it really can cut your grocery bill if you go for some of these other alternative types of meat, or even use the whole chicken and just not get even the pieces. So if you have time to do that, that is great. Not always such a luxury that we all have, but something to consider for sure. Okay, we've got our ginger in there. Great. And move this aside and just give that a nice stir. And then what we're going to add to this now for that's going to make it into that kind of really yummy sauce. I want to make sure I get the right amount here. We are going to use 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. So cornstarch is a thickening agent that is going to really help to just give this a nice sauce. So if you think of a gravy or some of the thicker sauces, that is the magic ingredient that will give you that texture. So something to kind of keep in mind. It only takes a little bit. Like I said, that's why I had to double check that. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a tablespoon, it's a teaspoon. I'm going to let my chicken cook just another couple of minutes just to make sure it's all cooked. but I'm going to go ahead and mix in a teaspoon of this cornstarch in here. There we go. And that is really what you can use to thicken things up. Sometimes soups, if you need to thicken up a soup, you can just put a little bit of cornstarch. I do recommend mixing it up in a liquid first, kind of like how I'm doing here. I'm just whisking it all up and getting it combined. Otherwise, it'll get very clumpy on you. So I think we're doing good here on our chicken. I'm going to go ahead and put the sauce in, and then I'm going to turn the temperature down a little bit. So get our sauce going in there. Set that off to the side, and I'm going to get everything coated. Oh my gosh, and you can see it bubbling, how it just starts to change into the thickened sauce right away. I'm gonna actually turn my heat down a bit now. My chicken is cooked, and we're just gonna let that simmer. Now, the other thing that I want to add in at this point is I want to add in some green onions. We need to save a couple of our green onions for our corn. So let's save a little bit there. And then we're going to just cut these up, and this just gives it such a nice little punch. There's also a lot of great health benefits in adding fresh onions. So onions are part of that allium family. And another component of that is the garlic. And these have just some great cancer fighting enzymes in there, some great compounds. They give you a lot of flavor. So definitely a really good addition for a variety of reasons there. I'm going to even get that little green part there. That is so yummy. And I'm just going to toss these in. And then when I go to serve it is when I'm going to actually sprinkle it with the sesame seeds. So I've got a little bit of sesame seeds, and sesame seeds are really fun too. When you're buying your sesame seeds, try some of the different kinds. There's all different colors of sesame seeds. Sometimes I get the black sesame seeds, and they are, I don't know, what the nutrient profile of them is. I haven't checked that out, but they just kind of give a different color and texture, little variety. So that's really fun. Our chicken the aroma is so amazing. It really tastes like that orange chicken sample that you get at the mall sometimes. So I'm just going to turn that down pretty low just to keep it warm. And then now we're going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to slide these out of the way here. And now we're going to heat up our pan to start making our skillet corn. And it is so yummy, our skillet street corn. So let's go ahead and get this one turned on and get it heated up. I'm gonna heat it up pretty hot, and I'm using an iron skillet here. Iron skillets are, when I've taken cooking classes, they are just the pan that chefs generally like to use. When you go to buy one thing that I learned is that you don't have to buy a really expensive one. In fact, our teacher told us, just go ahead and get like the cheapest one online that you can find, and then you just keep replacing them when they get old. So kind of interesting there. Maybe not the most sustainable way to think about things, but that's chef's advice there. So what we're going to use for this, we're going to go ahead and have a frozen bag of corn. We're going to actually be using 4 cups of corn. We're going to be using some spices in here. We've got ground cumin, which we're using, and then we also are using some chili powder. So those are going to be our spices. And where did my butter go? I'm looking around for my butter. Oh, here we go. Okay, so let me grab this tray. We had so many different recipes that I had different trays for things. So we're going to, once that gets heated up a little bit, we're going to actually put some butter in the pan and get that kind of sizzling away for us there. I'm using 2 tablespoons of butter. And ooh, our pan is looking nice and hot. That's great. We're going to go ahead and just melt that butter, and then we're going to add the corn. Okay. Corn is a great source of fiber, and it's nice. We're using frozen corn today, but it's definitely very seasonal. So in these summer months, I live in the Southwest, I live in Colorado, and oh my goodness, so corn is just everywhere right now. You get the special kind of Oasis corn. So it's great to buy. One way that you can really decrease your cooking budget is to buy things when they're in season. It sounds simple enough, but sometimes we don't think about it. So what we're doing then is we're getting locally grown food. We're getting it at a better price. And usually there's more nutrients in food that is locally grown because it's picked. It doesn't have to ship so far. So it's really a great way to enhance your nutrition as well as decrease your food budget. We're going to put this corn, we're going to serve it in a nice clear bowl because it's so pretty. I love it. But while we're letting the corn kind of saute there, we're going to go ahead and make this sauce. Another way to actually do this corn is to use the ears of corn, and then you just kind of, you can cook the ears of corn and then put the sauce all around it. So you can also serve it that way. I feel like, I don't know, I just think it's a little bit easier to eat it when it's in this form. So in our sauce here, let me go ahead and get another little spoon here. We're going to go ahead and put a half a cup of mayo in there. We're going to use a half a cup of sour cream. There's quite a bit of sour cream that we're using today in our recipe. It's nice when you can buy an ingredient and then use it for multiple things. We're going to put that in there. And then we're also going to be using about a half a teaspoon of our chili powder. Let's get our half teaspoon out. There we go. With my spices, I do, and then we're going to use a teaspoon of the cumin. Cumin, here's a fun little trick for you. Cumin is one of the spices that gives things a real restaurant flavor to them. I don't know what it is about the cumin, but it is absolutely delicious. I like to put it into my soup. A lot of times I'll put curry powder, has a lot of cumin in it, and that's a good addition to soups as well because of that reason. We're also going to be using some of this fresh cream cheese, so queso fresco. You can use a different type of cheese as well. I do like to use the white. I like to use white cheese just because it gives, well, number one, the queso fresco is white, but also it gives a little bit of just kind of a, like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it just gives you kind of a difference in color from the orange. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and turn the corn down. We can actually just turn it off. All we needed to do there was just get it heated through. So I'm going to use the queso fresco. We're going to use about a half a cup of it. And I have never bought this before, oh, I don't know, about 6 months ago. And it's so good to use. So you just take a little bit and just crumble it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of mozzarella cheese. I don't actually know the way that they make it, but it's a really easy cheese to use. And it gives you that like flaky texture. It's really good. It kind of gives you that umami flavor. Very rich, very just yummy. I'm going to go ahead and rinse my hands a little bit here. All right. Great. So we've got our cheese in there. And now the other ingredients of our sauce here, we're going to use a lime and we're going to use about a half a cup of cilantro. I'm going to go ahead and put my cilantro out there and we'll cut it up. Cilantro is a great herb that you can grow pretty easily. It grows really easily. So if you ever want to grow your own cilantro, I really recommend doing that. As with other lettuces and greens and herbs, that's usually an easy thing to do, even in a little kitchen garden. Okay, so we've got our corn in here. And now with the leftover oil in our pan, oh, it sounds like our cakes are talking to us. Let's go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to go ahead and put my panko crumbs. So I've got a quarter cup of panko crumbs. That's just bread crumbs. And I'm going to put that in the pan with a little bit of that butter still left in there and just kind of I'm going to just let it brown up. Now I've got my lime here and I'm going to go ahead and take my little citrus squeezer, and I'm going to squeeze the lime into the sauce that we're making. This is a very juicy lime. You can roll your citrus fruits a bit, and that helps them release more of the juice as well. And then I'm going to add in the cilantro and the sliced green onions into our corn salad, and we're going to be ready to go. So I'm just putting this whole dressing mixture in there, mixing that all around. Oh my goodness, the scents of these foods are just so good. I hope it's almost dinner time where you are if you're making this with me. So fun. And ooh, our panko crumbs are getting done. Okay, let's take those off. And I will just, ooh, they were getting almost a little too done. So I want to save these right for the very top. So I don't quite want to put them on yet because I want to mix in my greens. So I've got my cilantro. I'm just going to finely chop it. Cilantro is so yummy this time of year. I get these big handfuls of it at the grocery store, and it's only 79 cents. Talk about a bargain. It's so great to add to your tacos, just put it as a little topping. I think it's delicious. I do know some people don't. There are a lot of people out there that do not like cilantro. So if you're one that doesn't like cilantro, you could use like parsley, or you could even use spinach or another green. So a little bit of green in there gives it that nice punch of color. Okay. Great here. So already we are just cruising on our meal. We've only been cooking for about 35 minutes, and we're almost to the dessert portion already. Okay, so let's give that a nice mix. Mix in all the greens and get that pretty color. Yummy. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and top it with my panko. And I just kind of want to spread that over the top, gives a nice little crunch. There we go. Perfect. I would say that looks like corn skillet perfection right there. That is going to be so delicious. We're going to serve all this up here. I'll set this over here, get that out of the way so you can see good. And then we're going to go ahead and go into our cake now. So I'm going to clean off my surface. We're going to put the cake on here. There we go. Let's take this out of the oven, and they are looking beautiful. I usually end up having a little bit of cake left over. So we might have a little bit for breakfast tomorrow, or for another cake that we can make another time. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and take my silicone mat out, and I'm going to set my cakes on there, and then we're going to cut them up. Go ahead and flip these over and hope that they come out of the pan. If they don't, we can cut them inside the pan. Oops, oh yay, that one came out perfectly. Let's do one at a time, actually. Well, I want it to cool, so I am going to do them both. We'll just slide this one over a little bit. It's quite hot. It would be nice if when you're doing this, you might want to let it cool for 5 to 10 minutes, but I really want to get this assembled so you can see what it's all going to look like. Let's move this to the side there. All right, lovely. Now, let's get our cake ingredients. So I've got some vegan whipped cream. This is made with coconut milk. I love this just because I just like it better than the regular cream one, but you can use the regular cream, but I think it's nice to know that there is a plant-based option for that. And then we've also got 6 cups of mixed berries. Now, in the interest of time, I've already sliced up my 2 cups of strawberries here, and I'm going to go ahead and tip in my raspberries and blueberries. So we've got a triple berry treat here. Really nice. And I'm just going to mix that with my hands and kind of get that mixed in. Oops, lost a raspberry there. Now with our berries, it's really important that we wash them. It's good to wash all your produce, but especially berries tend to be some of the higher ones, and some of those just chemicals that they unfortunately need to use on some of the food that we get. So I do like to get organic wherever possible on my berries, but it's not always in the budget to be able to do that. And sometimes it's not always available. Another option too for your berries and your corn, obviously we use frozen corn on ours today, but you can also use frozen berries. What I would say with that one, there's a lot more water content in there. So go ahead and defrost them first and then drain the extra water off if you're going to do that. But using frozen fruits and vegetables can be a really, really great way to save money. When things are on sale or when they're in season, just go ahead and freeze them. And that way you'll really maximize your grocery dollars as well as your effort. So prepare things in advance and like that. Now I've got this is a really pretty fun trifle bowl. You can do this in any regular bowl as well, but if you happen to have one of these, I had one for years and I just kind of never used it. And it's so fun to use with this recipe. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut my cakes, and I'm going to cut them in about 1-inch cubes. No need to be real scientific here, but basically we're kind of going for bite-sized pieces. Another option, if you're in a big hurry, or maybe just don't really want to do the cake part, the cake cooking part, you can also use angel food cake that's already prepared. You can use something like that, or just use a pre-made cake. This cake is particularly good with all of the ingredients that we made it with, the sour cream and the eggs. It's just, it's a really delicious cake. But you can do this, make it a little bit easier if you want to use like a pre-made type of thing, type of cake there. And I'm going to go ahead and just get a little spatula to help me out here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a layer of cake at the bottom. See how bouncy it is and moist? It's so good. So we're just going to pop that in the bottom there. And then I'm going to put a layer of whipped cream. Another spatula. We're getting 2 containers. We're actually using 4 cups of whipped cream, and I really do use it all. It's just nice. When you put the whipped cream in, try and get it so that it's actually, especially if you're using a glass bowl, try and get it so it spreads all the way and even touches the glass, because that's going to give you a really nice layering effect. Everybody's going to think that you went to culinary school after you make this one. And it's so simple, they'll never know. Or maybe they will if you tell them, like me. I can't keep a secret, especially if it's something useful. I always have to share it. Okay, now we're just gonna heap on those berries. And the berries are so rich in antioxidants. A lot of times blueberries get the prize for being like the most healthy berry. But really having a variety, kind of like with greens, we want to just have a variety of our greens. I'm just doing the second layer here. So here's where I'll probably use about half of this cake, and then there'll be some left over too. Usually my kids are running around going, "Can I have some?" So it usually disappears pretty quick. But you might have a little left over, and it's really good with your coffee in the morning. So back to berries and greens. Having a variety is really the key. That's really kind of what we're finding with nutrition in general, is it's not even so much about the serving size as it is about the diversity in your nutrition. So we really want to have a very diverse diet, and that is the key to health, because we're getting all these different nutrients. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of that whipped cream on. I might have to push this down a little bit. I was very generous with my cake amounts today. Or maybe my cake was just a little bit fluffier. I don't know. But now we want to spread this whipped cream around. I like to make a nice shelf on the top where I'm going to put all my berries. I'm just going to kind of smooth it out. Once you dig into it, it becomes kind of a mess anyway. So don't worry about making it look all perfect, but it's kind of a fun for display. And then we're going to just put the rest of our berries on top. If you want to get fancy, you can actually leave a couple of whole berries or, really pretty perfect ones and put those right on top. I usually just kind of layer the whole thing like this, spread it around a little bit. And there we go. And let me move this so that you can get a nice view of how pretty that is. I love this dessert. I'm going to turn it around this way you get a better view of the layering there. So super fun. Let's go ahead and serve out our food. So what I like to do, we've got the corn in a nice clear bowl so that we can see how pretty it is. I'm going to go ahead and take my chicken and I'm going to put it out onto a platter so that we can see all that. This is kind of as if we were going to a party or something. This is probably how I would go ahead and serve it. And remember, every time that you do cook or prepare food, even if it's just a snack, try and make sure that you have some that you can have at a later time. Think of it as your health savings account. So every time you're prepping for food, make sure that you're saving a little bit behind, even if it's just a serving for tomorrow or a serving that you can freeze. One thing, speaking of freezing, that I did forget to mention, if you want to make this chicken and just have it ready to go ahead of time, cut up your chicken, put the marinade or the sauce all with it, and then you can just cook it like that. You can freeze it and cook it from there. So this is what our plate is really going to look like once we plate this out. We'll get a little bit of chicken. And a great side dish for this I've found is squash. So like zucchini or even spaghetti squash is really fun. That's a great side dish. And then we'll go ahead and get some of our corn here. So yummy. Okay, and I'm not going to break into the cake. It's so pretty, but the way that you are going to serve this is I usually just take a deep spoon and kind of just dig through to the bottom and then scoop it up. And it's really fun to serve at the table because everybody is looking at it going, oh my gosh, how are we going to eat this? And it's so fun. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful and you found some good tips. You can reach out to me at shinehealthcollective.com for more recipes and tips and coaching. And it has truly been a pleasure to be with you on our Q3 live cooking demo here presented by FitPros. I'm Suzy Lewis, and I welcome you to fill out our feedback form as well and let us know what you liked and what you'd like to see in the future. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.